Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Just going to give people a minute to get situated here and just making sure the audio stream is working properly. All right, the training will last about an hour and a half or so. We will be focusing on the major Dash features, although we will get into some of the others as well. And so, feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask questions about a particular feature as we get to them, and I will try to address those questions at that time. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get logged in. So here we go here we are at our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get it here from the virtualpbx.com website. There's a blue bar going along the top of the website. There's a login link there. In general, I do recommend bookmarking this page, as that will make your life a little easier, especially for system admins, so that way they can get back in easily if they need to. And sorry about that. Check some other things here real quick. All right, but to log in, we need your email address, which you used to create your account, or your admin used to create your user, your password, or the account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if you don't have that information, right here at the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. So you can click on that. We still need your email address, right? That's your unique identifier for your user. And then we need one of these two pieces of information, right? So we need either the account name or a phone number that's on the account, right? And that's one of your customer-facing phone numbers. You would fill that out, click on Reset Password. The system will then send you an email with a link. That link allows you to log in and change your password. Right? It's not going to let you do anything else. Once you've changed your password, it's going to log you back out, send you back here, so you can type in that password here, right? And then the main reason for that is so that way you have the option to click on the Remember Me box. And then we'll go ahead and click on Sign In. Now I'm using a test account that I've logged into several times, so it's taking me right to the dashboard page. For you, especially if it's a new account or it's your first time ever signing in, it's taking you to your account page. Now I can get to my account page by clicking up my name at the top right. So this is, for instance, where you would click change your password, right? The system generated password is usually fairly complicated, so you might want to change it to something that's easier for you to remember. You can also click on, as an admin, right? You can click on the account level settings here on the left. And typically the most common thing that's changed is the time zone, possibly the language, but typically the time zone. Now on your accounts, on the left underneath where it says user, you'll have another section for billing information. That's going to be for things like updating your credit card, seeing your current service plan, your invoices, etc. Now, currently, that particular set of features is offline. The billing team is going through an upgrade. So for any changes you need to make on the billing, especially for updating your credit card, you're going to need to contact our billing or account services team. That first time logging in, you're also going to have the dash wizard start, right? Little pop-ups telling you what certain things are. But once you're done here, go ahead and click close over here to the top right, and then you'll be back on the dashboard. That dash wizard will continue here on the dashboard. It will come up again under the groups page, right? The little 3 people icon here, as well as a user page, right? The person at the desk. Now, up here at the top, so you have your name, so click on that to get to that account page to update your password. For most of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle, right? D&D for do not disturb. The reason I don't have it is because my user is part of an ACD queue, right? The ACD queue feature and the do not disturb feature do not work well together. So once I was assigned to the queues, the D&D toggle was removed from here. Now, further over to the right, we have a little question mark icon or the help icon. Now, 3 of these options will always be here, right? The 4th one only shows up after you've added a web phone device to your user. So first up, chat with us. This will open up the chat window at the bottom right of your browser typically and allow you to speak with a support agent, right? So they can walk you through a particular feature, right? Learn more. This will open up a new tab and take you to support, the support pages for VirtualPBX. So you can see the actual write-ups and screenshots of various features in terms of how to set them up, as well as VoIP phones. The online store opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, and this is what you would use to order, say, a VoIP device or a router, for instance. And then the web phone, right? So this is an actual VoIP device, right? It uses Chrome or Firefox and allows you to make and receive calls right through that browser. Now, it only is supported on the desktop versions of those browsers, so it may not work on the mobile versions of Chrome or Firefox. Right? But this, again, only shows up after you've added that as a device on your user. Right. The 3 horizontal line icon or the menu icon, right? This takes you to other dash features. Some of these features, like dynamic caller ID, these are plan specific, meaning you may need to change plans in order to access that feature. I'll make sure to highlight them as we go through, and we'll be covering these at least to some degree at the last, say, quarter of the training. And then we have the logout icon. Working our way down here, we have your company or your business name here. And you have these 3 features here, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But we'll work down here. Total users, right? These are the users on your account, right? People who make and receive calls. Many of our plans, or most of our plans, are based on the number of users you have, right? So adding users will increase your bill, so it's something to be aware of. Then we got total devices. I have 36, and then a breakdown. First up is soft phone, right? Software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. That's all a soft phone is. So it counts as a VoIP device, right? This particular bucket, right, includes the VirtualPBX soft phone and any third-party soft phones you may have on the account. Right, cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. Most of us know what those are. Web phone, again, that's that browser-based, Chrome or Firefox on a computer. Again, counts as a VoIP device. And then SIP phone. This is a piece of hardware, right? This is a physical VoIP phone, so it's a device that sits on your desk, plugs in typically via your Ethernet cable to get to your internet, and then you can use it to make and receive calls. If you're out shopping for VoIP phones, keep in mind that there are other protocols that are used. SIP is just one protocol for VoIP devices. So that's something to keep an eye out for when you're shopping. Down here, I have unregistered devices. I have 2, and that's actually in relation to my VoIP phone, the SIP phones, right? So 2 of them are offline. I don't know why, right? It's just the system saying, hey, I can't send calls to those devices. Then I have total numbers. I have 34 phone numbers on my account. Most of our plans include anywhere from 1 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. For specifics of that, you can check with our account services team. If you just recently signed up, you can check our pricing page to see how many phone numbers are included and what the overage is for each additional number. I then have a breakdown here between assigned numbers and spare numbers, right? Assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can call that number and expect to be able to speak to someone, leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax. Right? Spare number, right, counts towards my allotment. I'm just not currently using it, right? That could be because I had a promotion that just ended and I took that number out of service. Or, for instance, I got a number ahead of time because I'm about to expand my business into a new area, right? So different state, for instance, new area code. I can get that phone number ahead of time so that way I can start preparing the marketing materials associated with it. Next breakdown, USDID, US toll-free. US toll-free, that's US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888 number, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that just means a US local number, right? So number in San Jose, California counts as a USDID, just like one, say, in Elmira, New York. You can have an international number if you want. To get one, you need to email our porting team. That's porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number. They will let you know if A, we can get the number for you, or a number in that country for you, and then B, if there are additional requirements, right? Those additional requirements come from the country itself, not from us. And it's going to vary from country to country. Conference bridges, I have 3, and that just means I have enabled the conference bridge feature on 3 of my users, right? So they're moderators, or they're the people who control the conferences. Over here to the top right, main number. I'm not going to click here because that loads a new page. These 5 phone numbers all behave in the same fashion, right? So they're all going to the same location. They're all playing the same main greeting. Conference number, right? This one phone number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same location. This is the number everyone dials to join your conference. Whether they're your staff members, your vendors, or your customers, they can all dial this number, and then they'll be prompted to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. The fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number. This is your inbound fax number. Right, so the number you're receiving faxes on. And if it's the only fax number you have, then it's your outbound fax number as well. The company directory, this downloads a CSV file to your device. And in that CSV file, you see all your staff members, their names, their extensions, and their primary devices. The softphone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. So you would download this file, upload it to your desktop softphone application, and this will allow you to see the status of the other softphones on your account. Right, so if my coworker Bob is also on a softphone and I have the directory installed on my softphone, I can see if he's on a call or not with that softphone. Now, if coworker Bob has the softphone and a Yealink phone, right, I'm not going to be able to see if he's using the Yealink phone or not. Store discount code, just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in our online store, right? That's store.virtualpbx.com. And then we have the account realm, right? Each account has its own account realm. This is used in a couple things. One, it's used to program a third-party softphone, third-party device. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need. The other thing it's used for is for outbound faxing. And in terms of how you use that for outbound faxing, so on Dash, you actually don't need to log into Dash to send a fax out. Once your fax box is set up properly, you just go to your email, create an email like you normally do, right? So your email cousin Bob. Instead of Bob's email address in the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then you add attach a PDF or TIFF file to the email, and you click send. Right? The system looks at the to field, the from field, and then the attachment. It will not send anything that you send in the body of the email. It will not send anything that you send in the subject line of the email. It's also only going to send one attachment. And again, just a PDF or a TIFF file. All right, up here, back towards the top, caller ID. Let's click on that. It's going to expand the box here. This is your company caller ID. So this first pull down, which unfortunately doesn't work on the streaming software, lets you choose any of your main numbers. Right, so those 5 phone numbers over to the right, I can choose any one of them to be my default number, right? And that's a default for a couple different things. Primarily, it's the default outbound caller ID used for your VoIP phones, right? So when you pick up, say, your Yealink phone to make an outbound call, by default, this 323 phone number will be my default outbound caller ID. Then we have the company caller ID name. This is optional, right? In this box here to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters, that we transmit as part of your caller ID. Down here, we have the company emergency information, or E911. This wants a North American address. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, once you click on Save Changes, if you filled out information in the company caller ID name field, that information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. It's important to note, not every carrier your call can route through support the CNAM feature. Now, any carrier you ever heard of in some capacity supports CNAM, right? In terms of nationally. It's usually the very small or regional carriers who may not support CNAM, the company name. Something to note about the company caller ID name, right? We can only send it out. In terms of what the device on the other side gets, we can't control that part, right? If that device has something programmed, that takes precedence. What carrier that the receiving device is on, what they use to look up phone numbers in terms of company caller ID name will also have an impact on what shows up on the phones on their network. When you call cell phones, right, the cell phone carriers, they control everything that shows up on the cell phone's displays on their network, right? They're the ones who put that spam risk or telemarketer message or name on some phone numbers, right? They control that. So updating your company call ID with us will not change that when you send a call to a cell phone, right? Unfortunately, the cell phone providers control that. Now, for instance, my cell phone provider, if I want company call ID names to show up on my cell phone, my carrier wanted to charge me an extra $10 per month. I opted not to do that because I don't feel like I need to give them more money, and I'm okay living without it. And that's probably a state for a lot of people, right? They're like, I don't need it. It's not that big a deal. So again, something to be aware of when you're calling cell phones. Hold music. So on Dash, you can upload your own media files. It will play back .wav and .mp3 files. You want to record them in mono, not in stereo, and you want to make sure the file size is under 1 megabyte. You can click on the upload button here, then click on browse to find the file on your computer, again, .wav, .mp3. Click the up arrow icon, and then click Save Changes. You also have to pull down here, so you can choose anything that you've already uploaded. And this box here, you can type in what you want it to call it on your system. Right. Hours is actually part of main numbers. So we're going to click over here on this icon here to get to the main company numbers. So here, first option, main company numbers. You see these 5 phone numbers that are my main numbers. Down here, I have the option to either add from spare or buy new numbers. Right? Add from spare means I'm reusing one of my numbers that's already on my account. If I click on it, a box will show with the available numbers. Right? I can click on the box in front of it and add selected, and it would show up here. For buying numbers, this is just adding numbers to your account. So let's say, for instance, you signed up and you only added one number, but your account includes up to 15. You can buy more numbers and your bill will not change, right, until you get to that threshold. You have your options here for local or toll-free. Toll-free, you select the toll-free prefix you want to work with, and then you click on search. The system is going to give you a list of numbers. Right, you can scroll down and keep looking for ones that you like. So I'm actually kind of surprised that is available at all. All right, so you click on a number you like or multiple. You can see it's here in the cart. I have the option to remove it if I don't want to use it after all. I can keep adding more if I want to. But once I'm done, you should click on Buy Numbers, right? Now, keep in mind, this list is dynamic. So the longer I'm talking and not clicking Buy Numbers, the greater my chances someone else saw the same number and it's already completed the process, right? Meaning I won't get it. Now, that's not a super high odd that have happened, but it's possible. And the main reason I bring it up is you don't want to, add numbers to your cart and then go away to lunch and then come back, because then that, a good chance that the number may not be there after all. And you see that number is now added here to my account. For local numbers, you need to know the area code that you want to add a number in, and then you would do a search. Now, you can get this message, and this can even come up on the toll-free numbers. And that's just saying there's no readily available toll-free numbers or phone numbers in this area, in the 310 area code, that we can get. Right? The area code is exhausted. At that point, I would recommend checking an overlay or nearby. You may need to Google 310, for instance. Now, 310 is an LA area code, and I know already that area code 424 is an overlay for 310, right? That means they share the same geographic boundaries. So then, now I can find a number in that area. I can click Add and Buy Numbers. Now, if you really need a phone number in a specific area code and it's exhausted, the porting team can try to do a back order. The problem with that is there's no guarantee we're getting a number, and we can't give you an ETA because we're waiting on someone to give up their number. In that instance, you may want to go to a company like Number Barn or similar, who they aggregate a bunch of phone numbers that you can buy, and then you can port to us, or you can talk to a local carrier. Again, get the number and port it to us. Now, any place you have a phone number, right, you always have the option to add from spare or buy new. You also should have an option on this little gear icon. So this is where you would update the caller ID for specific phone numbers, right? So you can update the outbound CNAM and turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM, right? So that way the names of the people would show up on your staff members' devices. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address. And that can be important, when people are working remotely. Right, and then you would click on Save Changes. Now, if you don't want to use a number any longer as a main number, right, you can just click on the sign in front of it. All right, so now I just removed 2 of the numbers. Now, I have not deleted those numbers from my account yet, right? I've just put them in spare so I can reuse them. Like say I can add it directly to a user or into a group. If I want to delete the number, that would be handled under the Numbers tab, which we'll get to later. All right, office hours strategy. Do you want to be open 24-hour open office, right? 24/7, or do you want custom office hours? If you select custom office hours, for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of it, and then select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here at the bottom, you also have the option to be closed for lunch, right? That means your system automatically goes into lunch mode at a set time, right? You click a check mark if you want to make use of it. Set your lunch hours into, again, that 24-hour or military time. And then any changes you make, click on Save Changes. Office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, right, put a check mark here. Then over here to the right, you have Add Holiday. You have your options for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one of these will create a new row. So you see here for like New Year's Eve, you give it a name, choose the month and the date, click on Save Changes. All right. Date range, again, give it a name, start date, end date. Now, notice that there's no year indicator. So as a precaution, we recommend to not include a date range that has New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, right? You can have a date range end on New Year's Eve and then a new date range start on New Year's Day. You just don't want them to overlap. And then advanced is like I have here for Thanksgiving, where again, I give it a name, I choose the month, and then in the second pull down, I choose 1st through 5th, right? So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, etc., as well as last. And then I choose the day of the week, right? Sunday through Saturday. And in all cases, you would then click on Save Changes. Now, incoming call handling. This is for my main numbers, right? So these 4 main numbers, during my open hours, how am I going to route them? During my after hours, during my holidays, how do I want to deal with the calls? Right, so they're all the same basic options, right? So calls come in here, go to my virtual receptionist. If I click on virtual receptionist, that's a link, opens up this big old window. On the left is the main menu, right? This is what people can press on their phone to navigate through the system. Down here, add route, that's how you create a new menu option. You can select this pull down, you have a 0 through 9, the star key, as well as the default action. And then the second pull down is where you want it to go, right? Smart PBX directory, right? The dial by name directory, user directory. You have menu option go to a specific person, meaning it's going to ring their devices and then go to their voicemail box. Call queues, this is if you're making use of ACD queues. So technically a group of people with advanced routing options. Groups, generally I call them departments, again, a group of people. This was with fairly limited routing options. Groups are included. ACD queues are an upgrade feature. You can send calls to a specific device. That means a specific phone. Downside of that is that phone does not have a built-in voicemail. Then either the caller needs to hang up or wait till someone picks up. Or you can send callers to a voicemail box, right? So they can leave a message. And then media file, meaning they can have you can have a media file play back to them, like hours of operation or directions. Once the media file ends, the call ends. Greetings, and these are your greeting options, right? This is where you tell your customer thank you for calling, and then you give them directions, right? What to press, right? Press 1 for sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing. Text to speech, you type in a greeting, the system will then play it back, right? It's a computerized robotic voice. Now, in this box here, you can type in up to 250 characters, not words, characters, right? It does not count spaces. You can sometimes get over to up to 300 to 350 characters, but that's not consistent, at least in my testing. Now, once you click update and then save and save changes, the system doesn't allow you to give it a file name, right? So it just gives it a file name. In this case, it would be main, right? Open hours, right? So main open hours, menu, TTS. right? Because I'm in my open hours. Now, let's say I typed in a greeting and I called in and it didn't sound right, or I forgot a menu option, right? I can come back in here and edit the existing file here, right? The text that's here, click update, save, and save changes. But now I'm going to have two files named main open hours menu TTS, right? The original one and then the one I edited. Now, that can be a problem because on the pull downs, you're not going to be able to tell which one is which. So if you use text-to-speech greetings, I recommend that after you create one, you go to your greetings tab on the left, which we'll be getting to shortly, and rename the file just to something that you can help you differentiate between different versions. Right, you can upload your own file. Right, choose the file, .wave.mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Click update, save, and save changes. This little box here allows you to give it a name. Choose from existing recordings. This is a pull down so you can see all your media files, whether they're main greetings, voicemail greetings, or hold music files. They'll all be here, which is why you would want a name for your files that you can recognize. You can record it over the phone. Now, it says pick up a phone registered to the account. What that means is pick up a VoIP phone on the account. If you just signed up with us, for instance, and you called your main number right off the bat, you hadn't done any kind of setup, what you'll hear, the system will say, the greeting for this menu has not been set up yet. It will then ask you for the PIN number. If you enter the PIN number, it then walks you through recording a greeting over the phone. Right, the PIN number is here. It is unique to this time of day for this account, right? So that just means I can only call in and use this PIN number during my open hours, right? 9 to 5. If I call at 7 p.m., just after I've closed, this PIN number will not work. The other thing to keep in mind is when you record over the phone, the system does not give you a chance to change the file name or give it a file name. So that first time, if you called in and recorded it, it will give it a generic file name, usually letters and numbers. But let's say I had a text-to-speech greeting, right? And I called it main greeting 1. And then I called in and I'm like, you know what? My customers aren't liking this. I need to change it to my voice. So I call in, I enter the PIN number, I record a new greeting. The system doesn't change the file name. It just overwrote the content. So now main greeting 1 that I use under my text-to-speech now has a greeting with my voice. Right? It overwrote the content. Something to keep in mind, especially once the holidays comes up. Professional recording services, when you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They do their own billing via credit card. They send you the file via email, so then you can just upload your own file. Next, we have settings. Oh, I should go back here. Recorded over the phone. So if you want to record your greeting with a cell phone or a landline, right? So by default, you can't. What you can do is under settings is this one here. Allow outside recording. You'd want to turn that on. And that turns on the ability to record your main greeting with a cell phone or landline. You still need the PIN number. By default, it's off as a security measure. All right, settings. I explained these two together. Number of retries on misdial, how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. All right. Then dialing timeout is how many times the system listens, or how long the system listens for additional button presses. So, say someone calls in, here's my greeting. They press 7, right? That's not currently a menu option, and I don't have an extension number 7. The system waits to a count of 5, making sure that the inbound caller isn't entering additional digits for an extension number. After it hits 5, it goes, okay, not a menu option, not an extension. That's not a valid option. But I have a 1 retry. So then the system plays the greeting again. An inbound caller presses 8. System still waits for a count of 5. that says, okay, not a menu option, not an extension. It then says we did not recognize your entry, and then either sends it to the default action, so in this case, the smart PBX directory. Now, if I don't have a default action, right, I click X over here, then on that last retry, the system says we did not recognize your entry, and then says goodbye and ends the call. Allow outside recording. Again, that allows you to record your main greeting with a cell phone or landline. By default, it's off. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, right? This allows the inbound caller to enter an extension number if they know it. If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only press the menu options. If they enter an extension number, the system treats it like an invalid entry. And then down here, the suppressed playing of the invalid entry. If I don't want the system to say, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, then I can turn this on, and that will stop the playing of that message. Now, any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you need to click Save here at the bottom. And then when you're taking it back to incoming call handling, you need to click Save Changes here. Right, so you're clicking Save twice. All right, second option, call comes in. I'm offering it to my front desk group and then goes to my virtual receptionist. So this is designed to give someone or several people an opportunity to answer the call first, right? So it's a live operator answer. And if they're not able to pick up, then go to your virtual receptionist, right? This is a pull down. So you can, typically you would send it to a user or a group or possibly an ACD queue. You have these other options like devices. Basically after 20 seconds, they would go to the virtual receptionist. Beyond that, I would not recommend the other options. But then you click on virtual receptionist. And again, we're in my after hours, so I have different menu options and I would have a different greeting playing. And I can even have different settings here. Holidays, and what I'm doing here is when calls come in during the holidays, I'm sending them straight to this voicemail box. Now, this first pull down, right, I can send them to the smart PBX directory. I can send them to a user, an ACD queue or group, for instance, even a device. I can even have a media file play, right? And then the system will send the call to the voicemail box I designated. Now, in this option, if you're sending calls to a user, group, queue, or device, the system is only going to try to ring that device for 20 seconds. There's no way to change that. That's just hard-coded. After the 20 seconds, goes to the voicemail box you designated. This last option here only shows up if you have advanced call flows. And that would be if our services team created a special call flow for you for some sort of advanced configuration, or if your account has auto attendance and you made an auto attendant available in the main menu. If you don't have either of those, then this fourth option here doesn't even show up. Main conference number, again, you can add from spare or buy new because you can have multiple conference numbers. You have the option here to edit the greeting. Right, you click enable, it's text to speech, so it's that 250 character limit. Click on save. But basically, anyone who wants to join a conference dials one of your conference numbers. They will be prompted to enter the conference room number and the PIN number, and then they're in a conference. Main fax box number, again, you can only have the one number. So if I didn't have one here, I would have the options to add from spare or buy new. All right, you have the option here to edit the fax box. When you click on that, first up is the inbound notification email. Right, you put an email address here. This email, which is Bob, he's going to get an email every time a fax comes into the system. Right, so then he'll get in the emails. If someone dials your fax box number, say from their cell phone, right, they hear fax tones and they hang up, the system will still send Bob an email, but in this time, we'll say there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Now, in the body of the email, it might say something like wireless caller. If you see that, just, again, treat that like someone dialed a wrong number, right? As far as I know, I've not encountered where someone can dial a number from their cell phone and then switch it to fax. There might be a phone out there that does, but it's not very common. Now, if you're getting that from, say, a fax number you recognize, or you're expecting a fax, then you want to double check the call logs and or reach out to that other person to see if their machine gave a fax error of some type. The email permissions, this is designed to put your company email domain here. And that will allow anyone at your company with that, an email that ends in that domain to send a fax out via your Dash account without being a user on the system. And then you click on Save Changes. All right, next up we have auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, right? So available on some plans and not others. There's a couple use cases. One, it will be used for submenuing, right? So if you want like one for English, two for Spanish, you would then have an English and Spanish auto attendant here. Each would then have a greeting in the appropriate language, and then the menu options would go to your staff members who speak their appropriate language. The other reason that our customers would use this for would be if you have multiple businesses, right? So each business has its own number, or multiple phone numbers if you wanted, their own main greeting, but you have the same staff people answering calls for both businesses. Or you just want them both on the same account, right? Just to make your life a little easier. So up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name, and then you give it an extension number. The extension number is not something you would expect your customers to know, but your staff members could use it to transfer calls to it, right, to a different auto attendant. Then you click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, you can click on the name, and you have this. By default, it starts off as unavailable in main menu. That means it's a standalone attendant, i.e. separate business. If you click on that, it flips it. It says now it's available in main menu, right? That means I want it to be available in my main menu as a submenu option, right? It's a routing option within my system in general. If you click on the phone numbers box, you can buy numbers, you can add from spare. You got the little gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, etc. The extension box, right? You can add multiple extensions to a user or group as well as to an auto attendant. If you're going to change an extension number for something, I recommend, adding the new extension that you're going to use, right? Then click on Save Changes. So here, if I do, actually, let's do a different attendant here. All right, do Save Changes. And then say I want to reuse this extension 1018, then I would unassign it here and click Save Changes again. So now I can reuse the extension 1018 for something else. Then I got the little wrench icon here under Settings. Now you see I have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? That matches what we already set up under main number, right? So your secondary attendants or your secondary businesses have the same hours of operation as your primary. But these all only have the option for the virtual receptionist. So you set up your menu options, your greetings, you can adjust your settings, and then click on Save and Save Changes. Next up, we have the Devices tab. This shows your devices on the account. Right? Red means it's unregistered, so we can't send a call to it. So in the instance of a soft phone, that could be someone's not logged in at this time. Right? Black means you've turned it off, right, under the enabled section for whatever reasons. And then green, like I have down here, right? That means it's registered, so the system can send calls to it. Now at the top, you click on Add Device, and you have these device options. First up is SIP phone. Again, this is that physical VoIP device, right? Sits on someone's desk. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some of them have a lot of models you can choose from. Some not as many. But basically, you need to find the make and model of your phone. Find it here. You need to give it a name, right? Something like Bob's phone, break room phone, that sort of thing. And then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device. For VoIP phones, it's typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, if you go under like its basic settings or its status, it should show up there under IPv4, or sorry, under MAC, MAC, excuse me. Right, then you would click on Create Device. And after that, you just need to go to the Users tab here to assign it to a specific person. Now, in terms of our dashboard, that's it. However, you need to log into that phone's web user interface. And basically, you're telling it to go, you need to put in a URL. Tell the phone, hey, go here to get your config file. For the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages. You're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones, or simply just Auto Provisioning Devices. That's going to have screenshots of these various manufacturers, the specific syntax for the URL, because it's slightly different for some of them. And in some cases, there might be some settings they want you to double check. But basically, you do all of that. You will click Save and then tell the phone to auto provision. It's going to reboot a couple times, and then it will show up here as a green device. Right, cell phone and landline are basically the same. Right, you give it a name, right? Angela's phone, and then you put in the number. You need to put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number. No spaces, no dashes, no parentheses, just +1, area code and number. And then you click on Create Device. Now, one thing I should point out here is, let me click on this demo device, right? So this is the proper format. If we go to Advanced Options, this is the default settings for a cell phone or a landline. When a call comes in to Dash and then we send it out to, say, your cell phone, right? Your phone's going to ring. When you pick up or answer the call, right, the system will come on and say, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you are there. Yes, you want to take this call. That is fine for someone who's using their cell phone. But let's say instead of your cell phone number, you put in a phone number you got from an automated answering service that you use for your after-hours calls. In that instance, right, that automated answering service doesn't know when to press 1, doesn't know when to send the tone, right? So calls aren't going to connect properly. So in that scenario, you'd want to come here to the device under the advanced options and see where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail. You want to put a check mark here. So now when we send a call to this phone number, we're not sending in that message about this is a forwarded call and pressing 1. We're sending the call to that phone number. We hear that pickup tone. We connect the call, right? So then your automated answering service handles the call from that point forward. If this is your actual cell phone number and you have this checked, it's possible that when we offer a call to your cell phone and your cell phone voicemail picks up, that we send the caller right to that cell phone voicemail. Some people want that. Some people don't. Another thing that can come up is this one, keep original caller ID. By default, what that means is when a call comes in, say customer Mary gets calling in, gets to your cell phone, on your cell phone's display, you see customer Mary's phone number. If you've gotten a lot of these extended auto warranty calls, you're probably tired of it, or maybe you're driving, you can't take a call right now anyway, yeah, you let it go to voicemail. Maybe you're able to pick up, reconnect with customer Mary, maybe not. What you could do is uncheck this. Click on Save Changes. Now, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number show up on your cell phone's display, you would see your main company number. All right, and that would be the number you selected here under company caller ID under the dashboard. All right, so it's a way to let you know, oh, this is a work call, or at least it's worthwhile to pick up. A soft phone, when you add a soft phone on the devices page, okay, you're always going to get this warning message, but you only have the option to add a third-party soft phone, right? Meaning you're using someone else's application, not the VirtualPBX soft phone. You give it a name, you would copy and paste the SIP username, click on the SIP password box, so then you would copy and paste that, and then copy and paste the realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you would need in order to program your third-party soft phone or device. Right? Then you would click on Create Device, and then assign it to a user. And everything else is fine. All right. Next up, we have the Greetings Manager. This shows all your media files on your account. Right? So your main greetings, your voicemail greetings, right? Your hold music files. Up here at the top, you click Add, give it a name, click on Browse to find it on your computer, click on Create Greeting to upload it. Right? You've got the name of the file and the source, right? Upload means you uploaded the file. TTS, text to speech, and recording means it was recorded over the phone. This column here, right, it lets you play back the media file in the browser. Right, so that way you can listen to it to see if it's still relevant. If for some reason it doesn't play back, then you've got the download option here. Just click on here to download it to your computer or device, and then you can listen to it there. And then you've got the wrench icon here, where you can change the name, right, and to make it something you can recognize, or delete the file if it's not needed any longer. Next up, we have groups. This is like hunt group or ring groups. This is an included feature. This is like for departments, right? You want to just calls offered to multiple people. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. Then you click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. You can change the name, right? And then you have the group call attempts. This is how many times the system offers calls to your group members. Little arrow is here to the right, so you can increase or decrease it. And then click on Save Changes. Speaking of that group members, under the members box, click on here. You see, these are my members. This is how I'm offering calls to them, right? This is referred to as blast ringing or ring all, right? As you can see, when calls come in, it offers it to all of my staff members for the same amount of time. Now, up here at the top, these are timestamps. In this last box, you can edit. You also have this distribute button. I click on that. Now, when calls come in, they're going to ring my staff members in this order every time, right? So always start with Bob and then go to Aaron, etc. Now, let's say, for instance, Bob has a new project and we need him to focus on that. I can click and drag on his name and drag him to the bottom. Now, he's still first because he's starting off at the 0-second time frame, right? But we can then change the order, click distribute, and now Aaron's first, right? And Bob's at the end. Those are your routing options, essentially, for groups. Now, these are sliders, so I can adjust it. So I can have 2 people start right off the bat, and then say, let's have my next 2 start roughly the same time, right? And then Bob's the last one. So I can do something like that as well. If you click remove, that removes the person from the group, does not delete their user. Down here at the bottom left, this is where you add additional staff members to a group. When you do that, it starts them off at the end, right? So you would have to click distribute again. And then you would click on save changes if you want to save those changes. Groups can have extension numbers, right? Add extension if you want them to have multiple. They can add their own phone numbers, right? Add from spare, buy new. Now, a phone number on a group, it's not a main number, right? It's not an auto attendant number. So that means it does not have hours of operations or holidays, meaning this phone number is working 24/7. Something to keep in mind about calls going to groups. For your staff members, if they have multiple devices, all of their phones will ring, right? So let's say Bob here has got 3 phones on his user. Call comes in from the group, all 3 will ring. Right? There's a user feature called Follow Me that you can set up where it rings one, phone A first, phone B second, phone C third. A call from the group ignores that feature, just rings them all. Now, one of the advantages groups have is that your staff members can answer calls with a cell phone, landline, or a VoIP phone. On a queue, they can only accept calls with a VoIP phone. All right, group features. Ring back, if we click on this. So call comes in to the group, get offered to my users. Right? When their phones start ringing, the system pipes that ring sound back to the inbound caller. Right? Ring back. So that way they know, hey, the call is going through. Now, if for some reason I don't want that to happen, I can instead upload a media file, right? .wav.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and have that play back instead of the ringing sound. Or I can select the media file I already have on the account, and then I click on Save Changes. Now, if for some reason my staff members' phones don't ring, let's say they give a busy tone, then there's nothing for the system to replace, right? Because there's no ringing sound to replace. So then the inbound caller hears silence. That does not happen very often. In fact, I can only think of twice in 6 or 7 years. All right, next action. This to me is the most important feature. It's if no one answers, what do you want to do with the call? So you click enable, and then you have your main menu. You have your options here, right? You can send it back to your virtual receptionist, send it to a secondary auto attendant. You can send it to a call queue, a specific phone. You can send it to a user, a different group, or a voicemail box. And then you would click on Save Changes. Allow call forwarding. If you enable this, that means you're allowing your users to make use of call forwarding on their user or on their device. i.e. they're not going to be at their normal phone to accept calls. Caller ID prepend, if you enable this, this allows you to enter either text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' phones. It gives them a heads up about what the call might be about, for instance. All right, numbers. This takes you to, by default, your numbers in use. This just shows you where your numbers are going. Right, you got the little gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, E911, etc. Your spare numbers, right, shows the numbers you're not currently using. This is where you can delete your phone numbers. So keep an eye up here where it says numbers and the buy icon in that area. So if you want to remove a number, it has to be unassigned first. Then you can come here, click unassign next to the number. And now you see I have the option here to delete. I just click on the delete, I confirm it. And then I click on continue. And now I have removed numbers from my account. And since I had over 30 numbers in my account, I just reduced my phone bill because I have less extra numbers. Now I can still buy numbers here, right? Local toll free, so I can add numbers as spare numbers right off the bat if I need them. Port actually starts the port process. choose local toll-free, and want to upload a copy of your bill that's within the last 30 days, and that would be from your current carrier, right? So whoever you're porting it from. And porting just means moving a phone number from one carrier to another. So you say you're porting from AT&T to VirtualPBX. Now, in the port process, it's going to ask you for the address associated with the numbers, the phone numbers you're going to port, the account number with your current carrier, the BTN, which is the billing telephone number. So if you're only porting one number, then the BTN is that number, right? If you're porting multiple numbers, then you might need to check with your current carrier to find out which one is the BTN. It's typically the first number on the account or the original number. The port process allows you to download a blank letter of agency or LOA that needs to be filled out and signed. And then in that port process, you can upload the completed and signed version. The information on the LOA should match what your current carrier has on file, right? Meaning the company name, the address, etc. The signature can be a digital signature, or you can print it out and sign it manually. You do not want to simply type your name twice. That gets rejected every time. Speaking of rejections, we don't always get a specific reason for the rejection. So, like for instance, we can get a rejection for address mismatch. We don't all get told it was the street address that was wrong or the zip code. Could be both. You know, it could be that the name of the street was misspelled. Now, when we get a rejection like that, we double check, right? We make sure, A, we didn't have a typo in the address. If there was two addresses, let's say you had one address on the LOA, but your copy of your bill had a different address for your organization, we will try that second address too, just to see if that will go through. But barring that, then we would let you know we got a rejection. Here is the reason. And that basically at that point, you need to check with the current carrier what the correct information is to port out. All right, users. This shows all your users on the account. Little gray person icon is a standard user. A person with the blue suit, they're system admin, meaning they can do all this stuff we've been doing today. Up here at the top, you click on add user and you fill out the form, right? First name, last name, pretty easy. The email address used for login needs to be unique for each user, right? So you cannot reuse an email address. You then enter in a password for the person, and then you enter in an extension number. Now, when you just signed up, right, your first user, you get to decide what extension series you're going to start off with. Then the system will recommend the next available in that series. So if this system started off with extension 1000, it's saying 1018 is available, which makes sense since I just removed that from one of my auto attendants. Now here we have create voicemail box for this user. This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So for instance, let's say I create this user, I add a VoIP phone to that user. They can pick up their VoIP phone and dial *98. That logs them directly into their voicemail box that you just created. The system will then walk them through creating a PIN number for this voicemail box and then walk them through creating a voicemail greeting. Include the user in the user directory to put a check mark if you want them there. You can always change your mind. Send emails to an alternate address. So by default, when the system needs to send an email to a user, it uses the email address used for login, right? So voicemail notifications, password resets would all go to the email address used for login by default. Now, if you want those emails to go to someplace else or a different email address, then you would put a check mark here and then enter in that different email address here. And then lastly, what I feel that's also important is this one here, send credentials to the user. So that means after you click on create user, the system will generate an email to send to the user that you just created and give them their login information. Now, if you need to add multiple people, you would just create user and add another, and the form would then come back to let you add a second person. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. Right, you can change their name if you need to. Here, you can change their credentials, meaning you can change their email address or their password. You also have the option here to resend the password reset email to a user, right? So that way they don't have to go to the web address. Here, you can change the voicemail box PIN number. Then here's your option to send to an alternate address. And here's where you would change their status in the user directory. Over here, this pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin into a user. Little time icon here, this allows you to change the time zone that the user's in. Right? So again, if you have remote employees, that might be in a different time zone. That way their voicemail timestamps are correct, for instance. Little flag icon allows you to change the display language of the web pages here, English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout, by default, is 20 seconds. Now, Aaron, it's grayed out here because he has the user feature follow me enabled. So he has a different timestamp enabled. Now, 20 seconds, typically plenty of time to send a call to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you'd want to increase this to at least 30 seconds, if not 40. Right? In terms of how telecom works, right? When a call goes out to a landline, right? The landline telecom knows exactly where that phone is, so it just routes it right to it. When a call goes to a cell phone, right? The cell phone provider goes, hold on a second, you got to find them first, right? Pings the cell phone towers, then sends the call through. That delay, right? Trying to find you is why you might need to have a longer ring duration for a call going to a cell phone than to a landline. All right, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Right, they should have one extension just for like outbound calling and voicemail purposes. Users can have their own phone numbers if you want them to have it. Right, you can add from spare or buy new. They can have multiple, right? Obviously, because I can add more if I wanted to. Again, just like in groups, a number on a user is available 24/7, right? It doesn't have hours of operation or holidays. Devices, you can add from spare or add new. You have the same basic options. Now, for the soft phone, we can add it directly to a user right here at the bottom. It's grayed out. It says use third-party application. You can click on that here on the user page and change it to say use VirtualPBX application. Excuse me. Now, each email address can only be associated with one soft phone at a time, which is why I'm getting this particular warning message. So then it's going to flip it back. But if the email address I have for Bob here didn't already have a soft phone associated with him, I could add the VirtualPBX soft phone. I would click on create device and save changes. Bob would then get an email from the system saying your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready and have his credentials for his VirtualPBX soft phone. So the VirtualPBX soft phone has its own username and password, right? That's going to be different than your Dash login information. I also find it easier here to add a web phone directly to the user. The web phone uses your Dash login, right? So when you go to webphone.virtualpbx.net, when you first enter, it's going to ask you for your username, your password, and your account name. So just if you're going to add a web phone to a user, just add it directly to them, right? There's no point in adding it on the devices page. Users have features. So caller ID number only works for users that have their own phone number, and that allows them to make sure when they make outbound calls from a VoIP device that the phone number on their user is their outbound caller ID, right? So the 702 number becomes Bob's outbound caller ID instead of the default, which is the 323 phone number we set up under the dashboard. The virtual text application is a new feature. once you turn it on, you select the phone number for the user, whether it's their own phone number, a main number, or auto attendant phone number. You click on Save Changes. Once you do that, they get an email from saying that they're welcoming them to virtual text. They can then go to virtualtext.app, app, in their web browser, and they can start texting there. They can also download the actual app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and log in there and also send and receive texts. The advantage of virtual text is you can share a phone number among your staff. So that way, say for instance, you can share your main number among your staff members, so that way you have multiple people able to respond to texts to and from your customers. Now, if Bob is a user here and I add him to a virtual text, he's just a standard user on virtual text. Versus Josh here, who's an admin, if I add virtual text to his user, he becomes an admin in virtual text as well. Voicemail box. This is a standard setup. Transcription is technically a plan-specific feature, and that's just the system listens to the voicemail message and types it out in the body of the email notification it sends to you when you get voicemail. Now, it does the best that it can, right? So if people are not speaking into their microphones or they mumble or there's a lot of background noise that the microphone picked up, then the accuracy of that transcription will go down significantly. Now, by default, the system will attach the voicemail message to the email, i.e. it's an attachment that they can click on to listen to. Your voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, the voicemail box is full and cannot accept any more, meaning someone, either the user or an admin, has to go to that voicemail box and start deleting messages for it to be able to take new ones. Now, if you have people who are chronically bad about deleting their voicemail messages, then you can select this option here, which is delete the messages from the database after the notification is sent, right? So basically, caller comes in, leaves a voicemail message, system creates voicemail, sends it to your user. Once the email is sent off, the system then goes back to the voicemail box of the user, removes it from the account. So it's completely gone, right? So that means your user can only ever check their voicemails via their email. So if for some reason they stop getting emails from us, then they may lose voicemails, right? So if you leave this unchecked, your staff members, they can check voicemails via the user portal, right? So web interface, or they can call in and listen to them and also get rid of them that way. All right, follow me. This is, again, for users with multiple devices. When you first enable it, it looks like this, because you have to tell the phone or the system which phones are you going to make use of. All right, when you uncheck it, they actually start off like this, right? So then you would have to click and drag to say, hey, ring these devices. Now, along here, again, this is the duration timestamps. You can edit this last one. You can click distribute, and just like in groups, you can change the order and redistribute as well. Fax box, you can choose to have users have their own individual fax boxes. If you choose to do this, I recommend that you make use of a phone number. Right? This way, Aaron here, he can send and receive faxes. Right? You have the option here to add a new extension. That means Aaron can only ever receive a fax, right? Because the system will use his fax box here, parameters for faxing out, and the extension number, right? Typically 3 to 5 digits, is not going to be long enough for caller ID purposes, and so it will fail. The other downside about using an extension is maybe you're relying on the inbound person faxing to send it to the correct extension, right? Person faxing has to dial your main number, wait for the main greeting, enter the extension number that they're faxing to, and then click on send fax for the fax to go through. Now, on an analog fax machine, some of them you can, enter the phone number and then put comma, comma, or pound, pound, and then some more digits to send it to an extension. But like electronic fax services, right? E-fax services, they may not allow you to send a fax to an extension. Or if they do, that may cost you. So something else to be aware of, or cost the person faxing. Conference Bridge. When you click enable, the only thing as an admin you really need to do is create a PIN number for them and then click on save changes. And all that does is that means you're making, like Aaron here is a moderator for my conferences. Now, there's enable video conferencing here. This is only for your Dash users, right? Anyone outside will not be able, outside of your organization, will not be able to make use of video. Call forwarding, off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on, right? They can control that via the user portal. They can also control that from a VoIP phone directly. Failover mode is something you would have to set up for them. And that just means when their VoIP phone goes offline, right, becomes unregistered, and a call happens to come into their user, with failover mode enabled, the system knows that the VoIP phone's unregistered, will automatically forward the call to the phone number you designate. So you choose desk phone or mobile, you put +1 area code and phone number, no parentheses, no dashes, no spaces, click on save changes. Customize call recording. So when you first enable it, it looks like this. You need to tell the system what kind of calls you want to record. Inbound internal, right? Coworker call, right? So another Dash user called Aaron, right? So say Bob called Aaron, record the call. Inbound external, customer call, right? Customer Mary called Aaron, I'm recording this call. Outbound internal, Aaron called coworker Bob. Right, whereas outbound external, Aaron called customer Mary. And then save changes. You don't have to do all four. You can only do one if you want, or leave it disabled. Every account includes at least some amount of storage, data storage. It's going to vary by account type. Excuse me, it's going to vary by plan. There is an overage associated with it if you go over it, so we don't just stop recording. For specifics of that, you can either check the pricing page if you just signed up, or you can talk to our account services team. If you have heavy call volume and you're recording every call, you're probably going to want to look at enabling the AWS integration on your account, which you would have to talk to our account services team about. That will allow you to integrate your call storage with an AWS account that you have. Our services team can help you get that set up so that way the two systems communicate with each other, and that way you can use AWS for storage, which typically, especially for high volume, is going to be more cost effective. Music on hold. You can choose to have your users have their own hold music if you want them to. For instance, you can have like your salespeople all have the same hold music to, have the latest promotion or specials that's going on, versus like your support people would have a hold music that may include messages about, hey, go to our website for our latest FAQs, that sort of thing. Or you can leave it alone and just use the default hold music you set up on the dashboard page. Do not disturb, that means the user is not going to accept the calls, right? Calls will go to voicemail. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. When you click enable, you give them a hot desk ID. So for instance, if you're using 4-digit extensions, just give them their extension number as their hot desk ID. Click on save changes. It's up to you if you want to require a PIN number. This is for use in a hybrid scheduling or shared office environment. So for instance, Aaron comes in the office today, Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2. He picks up the VoIP phone at desk number 2. He hits *11. That turns on hot desking on that phone. The system will ask him for his hot desk ID, so 1001. Then the system tells him that calls will now be sent to this device. So the rest of his workday, while he's at desk number 2, right? Anyone who's trying to reach Aaron on the phone is going to ring at desk number 2 because that's where he's sitting. End of his day, picks up the handset, dial *12. That turns off hot desking on the phone. He goes home. Next time Aaron comes in the office, Felicia is sitting at desk number 2. He says good morning. He sits down at desk number 5. Same thing, right? Picks up the phone, *11, hot desk ID. Now he's getting calls at desk number 5. All right, voicemail boxes. This shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. If there's an entry here under the user field, that means it was a user voicemail box, right? So it was created at the same time as the user. If it doesn't, that means either you created it manually, or in the case of this first one here, it's the main voicemail box that the system creates. Now, up at the top, you can always create a new voicemail box. You just need to give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Then you click on Create Voicemail Box. Once a voicemail box is created, you can click on the little wrench icon here, and you can update the name, the voicemail box number, or the PIN number. If you click Advanced, go to Greeting Media. So here you can choose a media file on the account or upload a new .wave.mp3 recorded in mono file to upload. The media file, right, that's your normal message. The temporary file is something that's selected here. It will play instead of the media file, and that's for your out of office or vacation message. Right? Once that person comes back, you would then want to change the temporary file back to none, so that way their normal media file plays. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes already have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. For any voicemail box you create manually, you would want to add you can add a recipient. You don't have to, but you would just click on Add New Recipient, then enter the email address. And you can also do this to any user voicemail box, right? You can add additional recipients. If you only need to add one, you would just enter the email address, click on Save Changes. If you need to add multiple, you would just click on the Add button to keep adding more people or more email addresses. And then we have advanced options. So for a voicemail box you created on this page, once you've added a media file and added a recipient, then you can click on Already Set Up. And then down here, you have the option to make sure that delete after notification and or attach messages to email are set up the way you want it. And then Save Changes. Oh, and then one thing to note under the wrench icon here, this is where you would remove a voicemail box. All right, advanced routing. So this is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. This allows you to call into your system from, say, a cell phone or a landline, to log in over the phone, at which point you'll hear a dial tone, and then you can make an outbound call, right? So therefore, you're making an outbound call through the system from your cell phone. Instead of your cell phone number showing as the outbound caller ID, be your main number. Right, that would be that number under the dashboard, under the caller ID at the top. That phone number would show up as your outbound caller ID. Now, for new customers, right, new signups, DISA is not enabled right away. That is something you'd have to request from our account services team. And the reason for that is it's actually a potential area where someone could basically infiltrate your system and make outbound calls on your account, and you may not know about it. But once it's enabled on your system, you would come here, you click on Enable next to it. Now, by default, it creates a PIN number for you, right? Now, when you just leave it with just a PIN number, that means the only way to access DISA is via a menu option under your main menu or one of your auto attendants. I do not recommend that because it's very easy for someone to accidentally hit the wrong menu option. And if you get that kind of person who, hears, when the system asks them for the PIN number, they take that as a challenge, they'll eventually be able to figure out the PIN number. Then they hear dial tone. Now they can say, oh, let me try making a call out. And now they're using minutes on your account and you don't know about it. So to give yourself a little bit more security, down here where it says add an extension, I say click here. And then add an extension number that's not part of your normal sequence. Again, this system started with extension 1000. So the system's saying, hey, use 1018. I'm like, no. Instead, I would create a different extension number. right? So I don't really have any in the 8000 series to my knowledge. I can even change the PIN number to something different. And then I would click on Save Changes. So now I can call into my main number or my auto attendants. I would enter in this random extension number I created, right? At that point, the system will ask me for the PIN number. I enter that. Then I'll hear dial tone. Then I just enter area code and phone number that I'm reaching out to, and I make the call. All right, let's go ahead and disable that. Now, one way to know your call traffic would be under the call logs. So, for instance, here we see today I have a call that came in. If I click on it, looks like it didn't actually reach a device. All right, here, the left arrow out, right? That means, or to the left, that's a outbound call. And that's actually my fax box number. So this is me sending out a fax, or someone on my account sending out a fax. Let's see here. Trying to see if I have an actual call that has more info. Looks like I need to make some test calls into my system with active devices. So in general, right, this each subline, right, is a leg of the call, right? So this had just one inbound leg. If this actually connected, there would be a second entry for the outbound leg, meaning the leg going to my staff member. Let me see if there. Huh. This little fire hydrant icon here, this creates an email that goes to our support@virtualpbx.com email address. It will have the technical details of the call. I do encourage you to type in the context of why you're sending the email to us, i.e., like my phone didn't actually ring, or the call quality was bad, or whatever. Right? That way, it lets our support team know why you're reporting the call. Right? The technical details won't give us the why or why you decided to send it in. Now, each of these options here allows you to download the file as a CSV file. Right? So you can go by this week, by this month. The custom, you can set your date range. The system will let you go back up to 12 months. Right? So then you can download that. So if you need your call logs for a compliance scenario, I would recommend you do that every month. Our engineers can go back up to 18 months total, but after that, the data is not available. Then down here, the last option here, these are our feature codes. I've mentioned a couple of these, like the hot desking ones. Right? These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. That includes soft phones and the web phone. Now, this information is also published on our website under the support pages. There's also a document called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which again has this information with a little bit more context. On this page here, right, you can hover over the little question mark icon to get that additional context. All right, so that's the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. Right? You click Edit Blacklists. You can click on Add to create a new one, or click on an existing one. You would give it a name, and then you choose, are you blocking anonymous or not? Right? You can turn that off, on or off. Right? If you turn it on, that means if we don't get a valid inbound caller ID, we block the call. If you leave it off, that means we're letting the call through. Beyond that, for any phone number you want to block from reaching your account, you click where it says add number here, put +1, area code and phone number, no parentheses, no dashes, no spaces. And you keep clicking add until you're done adding phone numbers. Once you're done, you click on save here. Then you go click on back to settings. And then you make sure your list is over here on the right under selected, right? And then you would click on update. So now every phone number on these 3 lists cannot reach my system, right? They're going to get busy tone. Faxes, this takes you to your fax manager, and this is an included feature. You can go to your inbound faxes or your inbound fax boxes. You can see the date and the time, right? The phone number it came from, phone number it went to, the number of pages. You can download the file. You can even click on the little detail icon to get some further details. Right? Outbound faxes. Again, you can select your fax box. Now, a failure, that means we had a problem communicating with the other phone number. Right? So the system processed the request, dialed the number, and then ran into a problem. Right? You see the date and the time, phone numbers involved. Right? No pages. And usually there's a little detail icon here to the far right. It might be the streaming software is cutting it off, but that might give you additional details about what the failure was. Like you sometimes, normally just says failure, which doesn't tell you anything, but sometimes it'll tell you things like user busy, meaning the line was busy every time we tried to attempt, right? The system will automatically attempt 2 times. All right, the email to fax logs, if there's anything here, that means the system had a problem processing the request. Like someone sent a fax out or tried to send a fax out, but they forgot the attachment, right? That would cause an error, be no valid attachments. Or they tried to send a fax, but they use a JPEG file instead of a PDF. Number manager, this just takes you back to your spare numbers page. Reports, this actually would open up a new window and new tab, sorry, and take you to reports.virtualpbx.com. This is a plan-specific feature where you can create your own reports, right? You can customize your reports to get a better idea of what the calls or your call history is like. Unfortunately, the streaming software doesn't like this link, so it won't show. But on our YouTube channel, if you go under videos, you look for the advanced reporting demo, and that can give you an idea of what some of the things that you can do with the reports link or the reports feature. If you don't have this as a link on your account, then you'd want to talk to our account services team. They can see if it's available to enable on your account or if it's something that you would have to change plans for. Voicemail boxes or voicemails. This takes you to your various voicemail boxes where you can see the messages on a particular voicemail box. Again, you see the date and the time, phone numbers involved, how long the file is. You can play it back. You can download it. You can see the details. As an admin, if you click on the check mark in front of it, you can then move a voicemail to the different voicemail box. And then you can also change its status. So I can change this to listened, for example, versus it being new, or I can change it back. ACD queues, right? ACD stands for automatic call distribution. This is a call center feature. There are 2 kinds of queues available, standard queues, which I'm showing here, and the ACD queues Pro. I can't show you both because accounts can only have one or the other, right? They cannot have both. So if you want to see the ACD queues Pro, again, on our YouTube channel, under videos, look for the ACD queues Pro demo. It has some more advanced features. This is a call center feature. This is designed to have, unless you have multiple staff members, handle calls from multiple people at the same time with different kinds of routing options, meaning sorry, got distracted there. Now, once you have queues are an upgrade feature off of existing plans. It is actually possible that you may have to change plans, right? So that might change your bill, and then have an upgrade fee on top of for the queues. Once you have queues, you can either click on Add New Queues. I'm just going to click on the gear icon on an existing queue. You give it a name, right? And then you choose either a phone number or an extension, right? Queues can have one or the other, but not both. Next up then, under configuration, you have the queue routing strategy. This pull down, you can have round robin, which will equalize out over time. Most idle, right? Who's been waiting the longest. Least calls is the least amount of connected calls in the queue. And then least offers is the combination of missed and connected calls. You can upload your own hold music file, .wave, .mp3, recorded in mono. For the queues, you can upload a 5 megabyte file. But again, you want to make sure it's recorded in mono. The queue timeout measured in seconds is how much time you're having staff members wait, or sorry, how much time your inbound callers will wait on hold. So in this case, 240 seconds. The queue call limit is how many callers are allowed to wait on hold. And this is on top of whoever's already speaking to your staff members, right? So I can have like Bob and Mary in my queue as agents on calls, and 100 additional people can wait on hold. If I set this to 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. If this is enabled, that means if I have no staff members logged into the queue and a call comes in the queue, the system will treat it as if they hit 240 seconds. Now, escalation call flow after timeout is after that 240 seconds, what do you want the system to do with the call? All right, so pull down, you can send it to a voicemail box, another queue, back to your main menu, ring groups, a user, or a voicemail box. Actually, I think I said that twice. Pardon me. The zero out to call flow, if you select something here, that means you're enabling your inbound caller to press 0, and then they can get out of the queue. And then the pull down is where they're going, right? Usually a voicemail box. Agent behavior, agent recovery time measured in seconds. This is anywhere from 0 to 30 typically. Recovery time is how much time the system will offer the agent, or how much time the system will give the agent before it offers them a second call from the queue, right? So Bob handles a call, he hangs up. If I had set this to 15, the system will not offer Bob a call for at least 15 seconds, right? So if there's like 5 calls waiting in the queue, he has 15 seconds to get a sip of water or finish his notes before the system offers him a second call. Force away on reject or missed. If this is enabled, that means if Bob misses a call in the queue, the system will mark him as away, and it will stay that way until he marks himself as ready again. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds, basically how long the system offers a call to an agent. Typically 20 seconds is plenty, as queues are designed to work with VoIP phones. We have been testing with cell phones, so if you're making use of that, you definitely want to increase this to 30 or if not 40 seconds. And then after that, it would go to the next agent. And then we click on Save Changes. Once you've created a queue, over here on the left, you click on Members. This list of people are the people who are available to be in my queues. It doesn't mean they've been assigned to a queue yet. It just means they can be. Now I click on Manage Members. Now that list move over to the right? So these are my available queue members. These are my other staff members. If I want to add additional people, I can click on their name and click on Add as Members. You can add multiple at the same time. But you see here, Bob got moved over. And likewise, you can click on name and then click on the real red button there, and that removed Aaron from being in the queues. Once you have queue members assigned, then you would want to go to the queues. And if you click on a queue, right here where it says agents, that's where you would click to assign your staff members to the queue. Basically, you would click and drag them over. Once you have agents assigned, then you can assign a manager. Basically, you assign an agent first, and then you move your staff members over to the right who are agents and managers. All right, let's end my session here real quick. So now for your staff members, once they've been assigned to a queue, right? They would come first to the ACD queue page here. They would click on Begin Session. Right, now I'm logged in, but I'm in away mode. Now, that first time logging in, or any time they've had a change to their VoIP devices, they should click on the little phone icon here at the top right. They should select the device. Right, they don't want to leave it on select all. Click on the phone icon again, and then change their status from away to ready. So now I'm ready to receive calls from the queue and any queue I'm assigned to. So green means I'm ready, right? Red means I'm away. Light blue means I'm being offered a call in the queue. Right? Dark blue means I'm on a queue call, right? I connected. Yellow means I'm on an external call. So someone called my extension number directly, or I made an outbound call to a customer. And then gold is on wrap-up time. Now for your staff members, right, when they're at lunch or on break, right, they can mark themselves away. At the end of the day, they click End Session. Now contrast that for groups, right? Your staff members in a group, they can't control themselves other than Do Not Disturb, right? They don't have a way to mark themselves away. They don't have a way to log out of the group. So that's one of the advantages of queues. The ACD Queues Pro has additional hold options in terms of you can have multiple music file play. You can announce a position online and the expected wait time. Some of the bigger advantages, though, in terms of reporting. There's activity logs. There's a performance icon, so you can compare agents to each other. There's also the ability for managers to eavesdrop on a call, whisper to the agent, or even barge in on a call. But again, all of that should be on the demo under the YouTube channel. Dynamic caller ID, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users, or the VoIP phone specifically. So if I click Edit next to this one here, you give it a name. So in this case, I can just call it 408. You choose a phone number on your account. And in this case, I'm saying whenever my staff members dial a 408 area code phone number, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this specific 408 phone number every time, so they don't have to think about it, right? Now, this other option here, LA area feature code, right? Now, what I'm saying is my staff members need to dial *550 on their VoIP phone, then enter the area code and phone number they're reaching out to. When they do that, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. And then click on Save Changes. Monitor is another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your other staff members, right? So green, waiting for call, etc. It doesn't matter what device they're using. You can see if they're on a call or not, as long as a call came into the system or it went out from a VoIP phone. Active inbound calls, each call will have a box showing you which staff member is speaking to and the phone number involved. Parked calls over here. If there's anyone that's been parked, then their parking spot number will also show up here. Recording Manager, this will take you to one of two spots. By default, it will open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.net. It will ask you to log in, use your dash login information, and you can see your call recordings there. Right, you can play them back, download them, delete them. That's if you're using the standard call recording. If you're using AWS integration and you've set it up properly, the Recording Manager will instead take you to your AWS recording bucket, so then you can see your recordings there. Again, play them back, etc. Webhooks, Another plan-specific feature, this allows you to link Dash to other software. You'd actually want to talk to our sales team about this if you're interested. But basically, this is programming, right? You need to have at least some level of programming or willingness to learn that. But you would essentially fill this out and then have another piece of software like Zapier, for example, to link to, right? You just can't have it go off to nowhere. We do have a webinar on our YouTube channel. You want under videos, you want to do a search for the introduction to Zapier webinar, and that covers some of what you can do with webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code and see examples of what we've done in terms of linking Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own individual user portal. For instance, here I go to mine, I see I have a voicemail that was marked as listened. I can listen to it, I can download it, right? Then I have the option to change its status. Right now, if my voicemail box was enabled or had delete after notification enabled, then nothing would show up here, right? Because it was already deleted before I could view it. I can only check via email. Call history, I can see my call history. So for instance, I can go back to August, click on filter, and now I can see the history of my calls. The fax tab only works for a user that has their own fax box, but they can then see their fax box history. The contact list tab shows everything on your Dash account. This is not something your users can edit. It's a view only, but they can see other users, groups, attendance, etc. The conference tab, this is where your users managing their conference. So over here to the right, it's kind of cut off. You can see where your users can update their moderator PIN number and their participant PIN numbers. There's the option here for people to join as muted or deafened, and then the option to join or have entry and exit tones play. When a user is actually in a conference, they can come here. They can click on the plus icon to invite other Dash users to their conference. They can lock a conference so no one else can join, mute everybody, unmute everybody, and the conference call. Also, while they're in a conference, each moderator and participant has their own little box. So a moderator, for example, can mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. The settings and devices tab, this is where your users would set up their own call forwarding. Right here, click on little box, put in +1 area code and phone number, no dashes, spaces, or parentheses. And then click on save. And that is everything. Gonna go back here to the dashboard. I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and we will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.